a little bit of drama. The Wired article came out yesterday. I covered it obviously on the stream. It's a big controversy. And in the Wired article, they actually don't even talk about like America. That's another like Democrat Party affiliated group that's like getting TikTokers to go all around and do like the America tour or whatever. But apparently the person who runs it, who is like super pro Destiny, came after me and said, Hasan the Hun, bitch, please. You're not about to try and out progressive me while you were sitting on your ass streaming. I've been getting progressives elected. Stay mad. Oh, FYI, I used to work at TYT. My NDA recently expired. Not sure what that second part means because I haven't worked at TYT for years. I didn't even know this person worked at fucking TYT as well. But this, I think, is a pretty solid response to this argument. Anyway, this was the short and sweet summary. Influencers including communication about the program and in some cases an onboarding session for those receiving payments from the 1630 fund, including Olivia Giuliana, David Pakman. Scoop, a powerful dark money group is secretly funding high-profile Democratic Party influencers. Big liberal content creators are being paid up to $8,000 a month to push party messaging. But the problem is the goals of the Democratic Party are not to actually fucking do something right by the working class. Okay, if that was their goal and they were funding this network of content creators, then sure, it's normal, it's good. The Republicans do it all the time, but we shouldn't be demanding a network of Charlie Kirks, a network of mercenary Charlie Kirks, but blue MAGA style. Okay. This is why when people came to me about the whole Joe Rogan of the left, we need a Joe Rogan of the left, all this shit. Okay. I kept repeating over and over again. It's not a Joe Rogan of the left situation. Like the problem is larger than this, okay? The problem is far more consequential than this. Anyway, Mitch Voter says, I always thought the Dem influencer hyping Biden felt like reassuring middle-aged people that Biden had young support rather than actually expand his appeal and outreach to young Dem voters, which is true. That is precisely what these guys do. Olivia does this role. Like, this is her role. Her goal is not dissimilar to Charlie Kirk in that same vein. Like, Charlie Kirk only recently started reaching a younger audience because of TikTok. But for the majority of his career, his goal was to get money from right-wing Republican mega donors like Foster Freeze and basically lie to them that they were making a fucking impact with the youth vote. Okay? Only until TikTok, college campus like debate, the college campus debate videos did Charlie Kirk actually start securing some kind of prominence in a younger audience. And that wasn't because of Charlie Kirk either. That was because there was a dramatic shift happening within the right-wing youth. That wasn't because of Charlie Kirk. Trump might say it's because of Charlie Kirk, but it is a broader systemic failure born out of the way that the Democrats have presented themselves to the youth, and just the way that they have been completely unable to address any of these issues, like the affordability crisis and whatnot. Whereas Donald Trump was seen as a mover and shaker in this area. He said, I'm going to be a mallet. I'm going to hatchet through these institutions that haven't helped you, right? And that's why he was able to make an impact, especially with young people. Now, that impact is whittling away because young people who were too young to remember what Trump 1 looked like, that became like more invested in politics because now they're 18 plus, right? This past election cycle, were willing to take a gamble again with Donald Trump. Okay, that's it. There were a lot of young people who were willing to take a gamble. It's part of that is COVID. Part of that is having lockdowns in your more formative years throughout your adolescence when you're supposed to be like around other people and like, you know, going down the wrong rabbit holes, right? That's part of it. I mean, it's a massive, massive issue, right? In any case, the Democrats are not going to solve this problem by just like simply putting a shit ton of money into content creators who do not make this impact, who do not have this impact. They need to try to figure out why some content creators do actually have staying power in this space. Not to hype myself up too much, but, you know, why is it that so many of these other guys don't actually have that motion? Why is it that they don't have this kind of motion with young people in general? Why is it that some of these guys simply do not have any staying power amongst the youth at all. It's because they are there to defend the Democratic Party. The major issue here is that when they're farming out talent from the right, from independent spheres and whatnot, they actually still try to offer treats to the base. Democrats, on the other hand, don't do that. They're constantly in a defensive posture. They don't have any discernible policies that you can identify them with. These are major issues that you cannot overcome. The greatest example of this is the last election cycle. Kamala Harris's policies for an angry base of support was basically to say, you shouldn't be. We're not going to fix any of these issues. We don't even have any real serious issues at all. You should just be afraid of the Republicans, which there is truth to that sentiment, right? Like, you should be afraid of Republicans. I kept repeating that over and over again as well, but it didn't matter because they were constantly running in the direction of right-wing ideology, thinking that they were going to be able to pick away some of these Republicans in the base, some of these Republican voters, and bring them to the Democratic Party. It didn't work that way, right? It was a failure. She out-money spent the Trump administration by massive margins. She outraised the Trump admin by big margins, but it didn't matter because no matter how much money you dump, no matter how much you're in front of people's eyeballs, no matter how much you can get their attention, it still doesn't matter if the policies that you are getting in front of them with are dog shit, okay? That's it. You can burn $1 billion. You can spend $1 billion saying, I'm a small business. I'm going to give $50,000 in tax credits to small businesses. But that's not an impactful message. That's not a good policy that you can be identified with, right? That's not like a holistic message. That's not something that you can actually present to as broad a base as possible. This is part of the reason why I like universal programs. And I kept repeating this over and over again throughout the campaign, and Democrats yelled at me for it. They were like, you're attacking Kamala Harris, and you're the reason why she's losing, blah, 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 all this shit. You're the reason why she lost. But ultimately, the Republicans have they make better assessments about their base's interest. They try to find things that they care about and offer them red meat. Dan got mad at you on TikTok. Who's Dan? Dan Bongino? Anyway, I think that this method that the Democrats are deploying here by using like Brian Tyler Cohen and all these other people, especially in this like incredibly shady way, is only effective if the Democrats are willing and able to change their attitude. If the Democratic Party unironically decides that they are the Medicare for all party, okay? If they decide that they are the anti-Israel, anti-genocide party, for example, it sounds laughable to even bring this up because you're like, they're never going to do that. But if they were to do that, and then they pumped all of these content creators who will be loyal soldiers that defend the Dems regardless, then they could actually make an impact. Otherwise, this is no different than having $1 billion fucking dollars that you burned with messaging bad policies and putting bad policies in front of people and then losing the election in the same exact way that they lost the election last time around. That's it. The fact that some of you think that I'm a young person that can have the political leanings of Bernie Sanders is part of the reason we lost many young men in droves. I'm not being paid to speak my beliefs. I just don't let you all bully me for being who I am. Don't like it tough. I haven't been paid a dime to do anything in Texas politics, by the way. It turns out she was. Don't know who else to let folks. There's a subplot in politics happening because apparently someone is paying GOP influencers outside of Texas to say specific things about Texas politics because influencers in Texas have to disclose if they're being paid for a political pose. It's just crazy that she like talked about how she wasn't paid for this shit at all for the longest goddamn time. Wait, what? 26 months subscriber? I'm not. I don't want to start a war between the left, okay? First of all, I'm sorry. One of the most pressing issues right now is Israel, okay? And it's an unimaginably popular issue to hold on to. And if you're an independent content creator that's being paid to defend the Democratic Party, and you don't actually disclose that information, and you also simultaneously never say anything about the most fucking popular issue that you could be on board with, then obviously I'm going to take issue with that because I'm going to take issue with that for two reasons. One, because it's immoral, in my opinion, to stay quiet in the face of such tremendous injustice. But beyond the immorality of it all, it's also insane. It's also stupid. from a political point of view. If you want the Democrats to win, if you're a blue no matter who type of person, why the fuck aren't you yelling at the influencers that refuse to speak on this? And why the fuck aren't you yelling at the goddamn party that refuses to speak and communicate on this from a partisan perspective? You know what I mean? I know, but they aren't Democrats. What are you saying? This is the problem. Because the Democrat base opinion, the opinion that you hold that like the party is infallible, we must defend it, is the reason why the party gets away with just being bad, okay? The party gets away with being a corporate subsidized, lighter version of the Republicans. We need the party to fight. Okay, we need the party to fight for your rights, my rights, everybody else's rights. We need the party to actively combat growing fascism in this country. This is not a joke. You know, it's happening right now, every single day. The issue is the goal of these guys is to basically delude the masses into thinking that it's good. It's good that the Dems are not saying anything about Gaza, you know? You shouldn't care about that at all. Look, Donald Trump is stupid. He's gonna die any moment now. Like, and of course they arrive at like correct issues with regular frequency because they ultimately being in opposition to the Republicans is correct, right? But the problem is you need to go beyond that. You need to demand that the party actively defend Americans. You need the party to actively defend immigrants. You need the party to actively defend the principle of being against genocide. If you don't do that, then you lose the space to grifters and charlatans on the right. There is a reason why Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene have made tremendous impact. They are out and about loudly screaming about how much they oppose Israel, and they're benefiting from it. They're benefiting from it because there is a massive void on the left side on this pivotal issue that everyone can see is abhorrent. How do you not see this? A lot of people tune this out when I talk about it because they think, oh, Hasan, you're being a fucking pussy again. All you care about is Gaza, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm making two different arguments here. I'm not even making the morality argument when I say this, okay? Even though that is first and foremost the most consequential part of this conversation. But even from a pure amoral, calculated political stance that you are taking from a partisan perspective, you should never allow Marjorie Taylor Greene to be the leading voice in Congress on refusing to send weapons to Israel. Never. That's crazy. That is a massive failure. It makes you wonder why, like, actually, why would they keep their mouth shut on this issue? Because they care only about donors and they care about defending the Democratic Party. This is a problem. And it's an especially annoying problem when the issue is so obvious and also no longer an unpopular one. Okay? A lot of people that came before these cynical people, these grifters, already did the fucking work. Okay? They already put their reputation on the line. They got slandered and smeared endlessly. But it was nothing, obviously. It was nothing in the grand scheme of things. It was all worth it. Because as long as you can convert people to seeing the truth about what Israel is doing in Gaza, whether it's one person or 1,000 people, it's worth it, okay? All the death threats, all the smears, all the lies, it's nothing in comparison to being able to actually be on the right side of history and to be able to convert people so they also apply pressure and potentially one day down the line, put an end to this madness, put an end to this bloodshed.